utilizing participatory social feminist approach and all the basically quantitative, qualitative collaboration between triangulation, specific objectives, instruments, all the process looking at the focus group discussion and all that. Next. Eligibility in terms of consent information, we particularly stress on women with disabilities, instruments and consent, all the process looking at the focus group discussion and all that, 18 and above with their consent, and those who are girls below 18 with their guardians' consent, and organizations of persons with disability, CSOs, leadership and support within eligibility in terms of consent information, the EVAWG movement leaders. This would give us the opportunity. This gave us the opportunity to work with not only the women with disability, but also the women without disability leadership in other EVAWG movement. Exclusion criteria that was looked into and informed consent. Thank you. Next. Data collection process. The process looked at ODK, notebooks, statistical approach, looking at the analysis was done with SPSS. And more importantly is to look at the feminist theory linkage. The data was analyzed with the linkage within statistical approach in line with the feminist theory, which informs the understanding, conceptualizing gender roles and advocacy in terms of inclusion. So the study was anchored in the two theories. I thank you. So for now, the key findings. We placed the findings under the objective. So the first one was mapping the EVAWG movement and network. We have a number of organizations with regional and country-specific, but for now, we've just summarized a few. And in this, we realized that the study revealed that 80% of feminists and women-led organizations advocate for the women's right. But
the recording has stopped.
But they have limited indicators for showing that their engagement with women with disability. We looked at the budgets, we looked at the strategic plans and the specific leadership plans to engage the women with disability. That was minimal. So, for example, in Kenya, out of the 21 sampled, 15 were women-led organizations. But out of those 15, only 6 were with disability. And same with Malawi, 3 out of 13, Rwanda, 6 out of 10, which shows that women with disability have greater leadership opportunity within the organizations of persons with disability, but not EVAWG movement and other CSOs. Next.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we are looking at the next objective was to the unique forms of sexual gender-based violence faced by women with disability. There's so many. We've just summarized a few because of time, but
this meeting is being recorded.
In terms of physical, visual, and inclusion, we realize that in Kenya there is 54%. These figures are very high as you look at them, which shows that younger women between 18 to 29 experience more restriction on mobility discussion and decision-making and access to sexual and reproductive health. They face a lot of violence, both in and women from lower household income are also expressing a lot of psychological torture and violences, barriers in healthcare. Some of them, when they go to the hospital, they don't get the right prescription, and when they ask for them, they are stigmatized, they are discriminated. These are still on. Rural participation face higher stigma and discrimination, especially the reduced access to infrastructure. There are places and they cannot attend, they cannot go due to poor safeguard and accommodation measures. The next. unique forms continue because across Kenya, across the three countries, Kenya, Malawi, and Rwanda, women with disability experience high level of violence. With emotional, psychological, Kenya records 62, Malawi 49, Rwanda 46. These are very high, and the details are in the report, but this is a little bit higher because a number of reasons that are mentioned, psychological, from the systems all through. There are policies in place but are not implemented. Records like economic violence is 54, institutional violence is 31. This is still high across board. And for example, one survivor said, even when they are invited for these meetings, they don't talk. And a case that one respondent said she was judged wrongly because of access, poor access of information, low access. There was, so we realized that there is poor or inaccurate um, interpretation of sign language at the judiciary, at the police station, at the hospital. So the whole process, if it is not well captured, it affects the women with disability, because here at some point they could not understand, at some point the wrong judgment was done because of poor interpretation. Some people just masquerading that they know the interpretation, but then they are interpreting wrongly, which put these women into problem. So that one is a barrier within the justice system and across board, even other departments, even applying for things, they are not given the right opportunity, the right tools. Thank you. And others are also complaining, a number of them across board, Kenya, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Malawi, that they are dependent on their caregivers who sometimes abuse them, but they cannot leave because they depend on them. Thank you. Next. In Rwanda, survivors emphasize on the same, and participants are like even the minors. These barriers affect their participation with their parents' relationship, because the girls with hearing impaired and even the students, they are forced to live in schools where there are no parents relationship, because the parents don't understand them, and themselves, they also don't understand the parents, so the parents leave them in school. Even during school holidays, they don't come home, and that is a big unique and very painful, because there is no parent relationship. uh, they are left with the teachers, who sometimes even rape them, and they go unreported. Next. And so, in the level of, in terms of figures, participation is 64 in Kenya, 30, Malawi 64. So, generally, across Kenya, Malawi, and Uganda, participation in EVAWG movement committees is moderate, 62 to 65, 64 in terms of program inclusion, are relatively high, but 68 to 71 leadership representation is low. This is, they are not there. And it's something that needs to be still a gap. Thank you. Next. The next one are the barriers. These ones we have country specific. We have highlighted structural barriers in Kenya, Malawi, Rwanda, giving each one of them a percentage. But for here, we're just summarizing that in terms of structural barriers, policies and enforcement accommodation system, that is still lacking. There is insufficient coordination between organizations of persons with disability and EVAWG actors, and because they don't understand each other. Some policies come, they are not able to read because they don't have big brailles, they don't have big print, so it's still a challenge. The structures, they don't even have the plan for them, and so they're just there for tokenism. In terms of attitude barrier, there are still negative stereotype about disability, stigma and discrimination, attitude, perception. All this we have captured very well and given them percentage according to country specific. So here we just summarize that economic barriers, limited personal income, poverty, exclusion, high cost of transport. Some complain. So, for example, you went first, but it's okay. Policy consultation. Some, like we say, even when these policies are in place, they are not able to read, they are not able to internalize because they are not friendly. Even the presence, even some of the rooms, some meetings are held upstairs where they cannot attend. They are waiting at the ground floor, and some even ramps are not there. And when they attend, even the toilets are not friendly. Where to put their bags, where to put their scratches. So this is still a gap. In some even say in their villages they are considered children, especially the church stature. When they attend the meetings for women, they are ushered to children. So this is still a challenge to them. We like one was saying, we are shown in photos and reports, but we are not part of planning and decision making. We are there to sign that we attended for purposes of ticking the box. Next. Yeah, the next one is I can't read this one. The structural. In terms of the structural adjustment, women structural barriers, like we have said, the structural barriers are still in place. Women with these systems, we have the systems in place, but they are not friendly and they are not accessible. The sign language and justice is still a gap across board because when they are not able to translate what they are saying at the police station, at the hospital, when they are sick, with the doctors, with the nurses, with the committees, and the people say their budget is expensive because involving them it means getting another extra hand, another extra person, which is not in the budget. So budget, accommodation, communication tools still a gap. And most EVAC meetings not even consider accessibility. There are some are held online without bearing that others may not be able to attend, may not be able to have the gadgets and a representation within the persons with disability. They say that as people with hearing impairment, people with vision impairment, they are not actually invited in many meetings because of budget and extra cost. So they feel discriminated even within. Because they're saying, like one was saying, so and so is always invited because she can easily go. She's known. So that is a barrier. Thank you. And so budget and representation. The last one, I'm almost through. Yes, next. Yeah, the last one is the practices. And this one, the inclusion modalities and success partnership treated between the EVAC actors and the OPDs. So we realize that within the government and actors, it's important to have a concerted efforts, have organizations, have regular meetings and have them meet together so that they can highlight the government line ministries. Some say we invite them because it is a requirement, but we cannot afford to take care of an extra cost. So when they know the need and give them the opportunity, the community-led and survivor center, which is important in terms of allowing the women to give their ideas, capacity building strategies, take them to college, especially the TVET schools, and empower them. It's one thing to train them, and it's another thing to implement and then follow up. Policy and advocacy practices, promotion. Policies are in place, but they are not being implemented. So invite the women with disability to be part of the process. For example, in Kenya, the Disability Act that was in 2025, no person with this, especially the hearing impaired, they complain that we are never invited. They are never invited in such situation. They invite people with physical disability, those who are visible, but not. So there is a disability discrimination between them, among them. And the lastly is a county level variation engagement. So it differ. There are some that are still considering. That is the last. And in conclusion, the findings reveal that although EVAWG ecosystem encompasses women's rights group like CSOs, youth network, and regional coalition disability inclusion, the women with disability remains minimal in leadership. So they are EVAWG actors to sustainably, effectively engage in order to support. And lastly, women with disabilities still experience high rates of violence. Like we have said, 48, 62, emotional 62, physical 48, economic violence is 54, sexual is 27, institutional is 31. These are vulnerabilities and compound to this from harmful cultural. Then lastly, the recommendation. We recommend that we have a strong network and understanding, build a strong network within the movement where there is economic empowerment and personal growth, and then the survivor care so that they are given space and safe accommodation. In terms of, we're looking at includes formal representation and also avoid inviting one person or two for several times and excluding others. Let's exploit the other avenues where they are equally represented. Lastly is the government. They have the policy, but it's largely, there is the issue of data still that we recommend, even if there would be another survey for just having data across board, because without data there is poor planning and it's not easy to know, even in an area, how many for, so that during planning they are planned for, the disaggregated data is missing. I thank you.
Interviewees. We interview them. Then we come up with a document, construct documentary. A story kind of. It's within our news. That is okay. That's equal sound. Like you're going to do chatting is something different. That's what you meant. Mm. Mm. Mm.
Hi, Christian.
Mm. Like space.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the findings that you have from that research. Very great insights informing what we do on a daily basis and how to be more inclusive even in our approaches as feminist movements, as women's rights organizations, and even as disability rights organizations. The intersectionality and the importance of working together to ensure that women and girls with disabilities are included, that we address the structural and institutional barriers as well as attitudinal barriers that are arising from this interesting piece of research. So I'd like to highlight that we are in the final stages of finalizing this, and once it's done, we shall have it published. So it shall be available on our website, it shall be available on our other sources. So look out for this. So we are moving to the next segment of this. But before that, it is a very a monolithic kind of engagement. So we would like to request you that you put in your contributions in the chats. We would like to know what you think about the research. We would like to know what you think about the presentations that have gone before, the commentaries that have gone before. We'd like to know your views, ideas about them, because this is an interactive platform. It is just time that is constraining us. So we are going to move to the next session or the next segment of this parallel engagement, where we are going to have a panel discussion of practitioners in this space, women with disability, lived experience, women with disabilities themselves, and practitioners within the space, legal practitioners, talking about the issues that have been highlighted in the research, and just trying to put into perspective the work that we do on a daily basis. How inclusive is it? And what are the opportunities for promoting the leadership and representation of women with disabilities? So we have representatives of disability rights organizations and networks. We have representative of feminist networks. We have women with disabilities themselves taking the front line in the discussions and participating in the panel discussion. So without further ado, I would like to invite our able panel discussion moderator, Belinda Diambo, to take over this and lead us in the panel discussion as she introduces the panel. Thank you so much. Belinda, over to you.
Thank you very much, Christine. I'm very humbled to be here. So my name is Belinda Adiambo Oduor, for those who don't know me. I'm a young woman with disability, that is an above knee amputee. And basically what I focus on is, I come from Kenya, sorry I did not mention that. I'm from Kenya. And I focus on disability rights, sexual and reproductive health for girls and women with disability. And we also do gender-based violence mainstreaming, and as well we refer, because we're still a small organization, from different ability initiative. So today on
Hi, Belinda.
Hi.
Please, would you mind opening your mic, your camera, so that we see you? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Am I visible now? Yeah, so for my friends who are
Yes, you are.
visually impaired, I'm a bit chocolate in color. I have a short hair, I'm in a chiffon top and a blue trouser. That is for my friends who are visually impaired. So today on our panel discussion, Christine, will you be projecting for me?
Yes, let me go ahead. The questions, huh?
Yes. As
All right.
as I introduce panelists, prepare to project. I'm trying to get to the panelists, just a minute. Yes, so I hope the panelists are here with us as well, as I introduce them, so that I'll just say one name so that they can give an intro of each of them, and please make it less than 2 minutes for the introduction so that we'll be able to keep time. So I will start with Ruth Virginia Mukutula, the Executive Director of Disabled Women in Africa. Ruth, are you here with us?
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Good morning and good afternoon. My name is Ruth Nkutumura, Ruth Virginia Nkutumura, from Disabled Women in Africa. And I lead an organization which is a Pan-African network of women and girls with disability, with over 33 members in over 22 African countries. I have low vision impairment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Our second person on the panel is Josephine Mwende. Josephine, are you able to introduce yourself?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Belinda. My name is Josephine Mwende. I am the founder of Embrace Africa Society. I'm a lady with disability. I was born with a condition known as cerebral palsy. We can say this is not a disease, it's just a condition which does not define who I am. Thank you.
The third person, sorry, I will go to Gishuku Karugu. Kindly introduce yourself.
Thank you and good afternoon, good morning to everyone. My name is Gishuku Karugo. I'm a legal advisor working with Equality Now, a global human rights organization which focuses on the rights of women. Also representing the Solidarity for African Women's Rights Coalition, which is a coalition of over 70 women's rights organizations and feminist organizations in over 30 countries in Africa. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gishuku. And our fourth person will be Jennifer Wairimu.
Thank you so much, Belinda. My name is Jennifer Wairimu. Colleagues, I'm from Kenya, Nairobi. I am the legal advocacy officer for Validity Foundation, which is an international organization that focuses on strategic litigation and advocacy for persons with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities. So that includes, of course, women and girls with disabilities. And in Africa, we work in Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, and since we're headquartered in Central Europe, we also work in some of the countries, including Budapest, Hungary, and the surrounding countries in Central Africa and Europe. I'm very glad to be in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So our last panelist is Jaipal Wasonga. Kindly give us a brief intro about yourself so that we start. Is she there?
Hi, Belinda. Go ahead with the questions. Jen Paul is the consultant, not the.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, it's okay. Sorry for that.
I'm sorry, I was off a bit. But my name is Jane Paul. I will be there. I'll answer any question that comes. Thank you for having me.
Sorry, I'm just learning that you're a consultant and that called you as a panelist. Sorry about that. On our question today, we're going to discuss on issues concerning women and girls with disabilities. And the first question, Kristen, can you go up a little bit? Kristen? We've lost your screen. Yeah, there. So we are going to reflect these questions with the research that was done earlier, that was presented to us here. So I will give each and every panelist less than 5 minutes, let's say 5 minutes and below, to answer, and be very articulative. And please involve this in your daily work. Ensure that you answer as per what you do in the regions you're tackling. So I will start with Ruth. So why Ruth? Why are the voices of women with disability in Africa matter, especially concerning the type of job that you do? Why do you think these voices matter?
Yes, thank you, Belinda, and allow me to begin by acknowledging and sincerely appreciating the support from the UN Trust Fund to End Violence Against Women, whose investment has made this research and engagement possible. And I also wish to recognize our partners and the women with disability across Malawi, Kenya, Rwanda, those that are in this space, whose voices, experiences, and courage are at the heart of these findings. So this research is really a very powerful body of evidence that brings to light the lived realities that are too often overlooked, most of the times unheard, but also at times dismissed, as we have heard. It does provide us with critical insights into the intersecting forms of discrimination faced by women and girls with disability, and the challenges. It challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about exclusion within our systems, within institutions, but also within our movements. So the importance of these findings cannot really be overstated. It serves both as a mirror, but also as a call to action. I would say a mirror because now reflecting on the structural inequalities that persist and call for us as governments, civil society, feminist movements, and even development partners to really begin to move beyond rhetoric and towards intentional, inclusive, and transformative action. So the realities of women with disabilities in Africa are shaped by multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination, which is rooted in gender inequality, egoism, poverty, and deeply entrenched in social norms. So from the research that we conducted in Malawi, Kenya, and Rwanda, as well as a broader continental engagement, one thing that is very clear is that women with disabilities are not just marginalized, but they are also systematically excluded. Women with disabilities continue to experience high levels of violence, physical, sexual, emotional, economic, and all that. Um, but what makes the situation even more complex is that the violence is often invisible. It is often normalized and it is often underreported. So today also we are seeing issues of technological facilitated gender-based violence, the online harassment, the cyberbullying, and all that. So I think that the research has revealed that women with disabilities are often excluded in most of these EVAWG movements. Most of their participation is often symbolic rather than meaningful. Why are these voices now matter as per your question? I think from what I have mentioned, this is precisely why the voices of women with disability matter. Because now they bring lived expertise, experience that is critical to shaping policies, to shaping programs and systems. We often say nothing about us without us. So without their leadership, we risk designing interventions that do exclude those that are most at risk. The voices challenge us to move beyond charity, to move beyond tokenism, and to move towards rights-based, intersectional, and transformative approaches. Therefore, my really call to action is that we must invest in accessible justice systems. We must address digital inclusion and safety in the context of technological facilitated gender-based violence. We must ensure meaningful participation and leadership of women with disabilities. More than ever, we must strengthen intersectional feminist movements that are not going to leave anyone behind. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ruth. For the rest of the team following, kindly feel free to send in your questions, your comments, and your feedbacks and opinions in the chat box. So our second question will go to Josephine Mwende. Please keep it 5 minutes so that we'll be able to match up with the time energy. In your line of work, kindly discuss how women with mental and psychosocial disabilities in Africa remain invisible and are underrepresented in the feminist and women's movement. In your line of work, Josephine Mwende, kindly keep it 5 minutes and below.
Thank you so much, Belinda, for your good question. I'm so glad for the research and findings. They have really highlighted the most pressing challenges that women with disabilities go through. And back to your question, when it comes to persons with psychosocial disabilities, they face a lot of challenges. We have stigma and cultural perceptions, and mental illness. Cultural beliefs in Africa context is mostly associated with spiritual punishment, witchcraft, moral failure, which contributes to discrimination and silence among mental health. If someone perceives someone that if someone perceives that a person who has mental health cannot speak for themselves, or it is a punishment, hence they will not be involved in most of the conversations in the community and also in Africa. And another thing that was also very well in the research is the structural barriers to participation. You find that in most movements in Africa, even where feminist organizations are active, structural barriers prevent women with psychosocial disabilities from fully participating. For example, there is lack of access communication formats for people who have uh, who have psychosocial disabilities as well as those with cognitive challenges. And again, you find that most of the time we don't have we have limited research and data. So we know if we don't have any evidence and data, feminist organizations struggle to design inclusive policies and programs. Programs may fail to recognize the specific talents of persons with psychosocial disabilities. Hence, they are being left out most of the time. And again, when we talk about persons with physical disabilities, you find that most of the in leadership spaces, we don't see them holding uh, leadership positions. Just because there is no representation of persons with psychosocial disabilities, which again will you rarely find them in these spaces. Uh, Again, the lived experiences are often left behind because we never see them in these critical spaces. And if they're not on the table, then nothing about it will be discussed. So, what I'd like to say is that let us also be so intentional when it comes to inclusive of persons with psychosocial disabilities. They follow under the underrepresented groups of persons with disabilities. So let us be intentional and embrace diversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mwende. And I actually like the point that you mentioned. Let us be personal about this and embrace inclusion. Yeah, it's all about personal. So our third question goes to Gishuku Karungu. Uh, Gishuku Karungu, kindly tell us the linkages between advocacy, the feminist advocacy, and the disability inclusion, and please propose strategies that can be used for joint advocacy to ensure that feminist movement and disability inclusion movement, to ensure that feminist movements can ensure that disability is also part and parcel of the conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Belinda, and thank you again to COVAO, DIWA, and the UN Trust Fund for this very important conversation. I think to keep within time, I'll just speak on the second question on the strategies for joint advocacy. So I would say one major and important strategy when it comes to joint advocacy would be capacity building and knowledge sharing. So an integral ingredient to successful advocacy is sustained and continuous capacity enhancement and knowledge sharing. This ensures one that we are not working within silos, but also that nobody is gatekeeping information. That information is being equitably shared to improve and strengthen everybody's advocacy work. As the Solidarity for African Women's Rights Coalition, which Equality Now is the secretariat of, we have consistently invested in building the capacities of our members and civil society organizations and women's rights organizations beyond our membership on a variety of issues that we believe are pertinent to women's rights in Africa, including on understanding regional and international frameworks and instruments, but also how to better engage with regional reporting mechanisms such as the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. Equality Now, with the SOA Coalition, has trained feminist and disability leaders in Uganda, Nigeria, and Senegal on sexual reproductive health rights, with a focus on Article 14 of the Maputo Protocol. And this training was geared towards strengthening advocacy on sexual and reproductive health rights, particularly at a time where we're seeing that there are more and more restrictions. Against reproductive and health rights. Also, SOA members like the Great Lakes Initiatives for Human Rights and Development, based in Rwanda, have implemented a project to build the capacity of women with disabilities to know their rights, but also to be able to claim their rights at the national level. So we believe that in order, in strengthening leadership of women with disabilities, it is important to first build capacities, not only to engage collaboratively with other feminist and women's rights movements, but to effectively participate in decision making and legislation making processes at the national level. And at the same time, it's also important for feminist movements to integrate disability inclusion and intersectional approaches in training curriculums to reflect the rights and interests of women and girls with disabilities. And this should be done in consultation with disability experts and organizations to ensure they are reflecting on these lived realities of women and girls with disabilities. Secondly, I'd like to just speak briefly on co-creation of joint advocacy. Disability inclusion advocates should be included in shaping advocacy plans and joint advocacy plans. And some advocacy ideas that would be relevant for the inclusion and integration of feminist movements and disability inclusion movements would be, just picking up on what everyone has already spoken on today, having disaggregated data on women, but ensuring that that disaggregated data is also disability disaggregated. We've heard today from the Koval-led study, but also from Gabrielle Henderson and my co-panelists that women with disabilities face disproportionately higher rates of violence than women without disabilities. And so it's important to inform our interventions and initiatives towards access to justice and prevention of violence and discrimination, that we have this disaggregated data, also acknowledging that generally disaggregated data on women and girls is usually very difficult to find, depending on the context and the countries that one might be based on. So we need stronger advocacy, and in order to strengthen that advocacy, it needs to be inclusive and collaborative between the two different movements, so that we have that very important data. Additionally, I think that it would be important for feminist movements and disability inclusion movements to gear advocacy efforts towards the ratification, domestication, and implementation of regional instruments which protect the rights of women and girls, including the rights of women and girls with disabilities. So the Solidarity for African Women's Rights Coalition, one of its major mandates has been on the ratification, domestication, and implementation of the Maputo Protocol and the withdrawal of reservations to the Maputo Protocol. And speaking on the Maputo Protocol, this, in terms of women with disabilities, we have Article 23 on the special protection of women with disabilities, but also we understand that human rights are interrelated, interdivisible, and interconnected. So it's not just Article 23 that speaks to the protection and promotion of the rights of women with disabilities, but the whole Maputo Protocol speaks to the rights of all women. And so it's important that these two movements, join forces and come together to push for implementation on the ground in our countries, which includes, EVAWG laws being developed with an intersectional lens. We also, just speaking on the regional legislations. We also have the protocol on the rights of persons with disabilities. So this is another important instrument that needs to be applied at the national level and adopted into our policies and national action plans. It's also important for the movements to engage with the regional and international forums and spaces like the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of Children. Engaging in these spaces provides a platform and opportunities to amplify the voices of both feminist and disability inclusion movements. Also, it's an opportunity to build coalitions, strengthen movements, and amplify the work that we are doing. And then I think the last thing I want to just speak on is that we should look for more opportunities for resource sharing. We know that now we are in a time of increasingly restrictive funding towards gender equality initiatives, but just human rights initiatives and projects worldwide. And so we need to move towards joint resource mobilization efforts between feminist and disability organizations, and recognizing that we are being pushed to compete for resources, but what we need to do is find ways of collaborating and working together in order to share these resources fairly and equitably amongst movements. So I thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for that question. I hope I've stayed within time.
Thank you. And what is coming out clearly is that it cannot work with one team. So that tells you women and girls with disabilities should come together to ensure that the movement is inclusive and it's working. So our last question goes to Jennifer Wairimo. Jennifer, if you're there, kindly illustrate how CSW70 recommendations, state responsibility, and continental and global frameworks can be leveraged to maintain disability and gender issues across national and regional policies.
Thank you very much, Belinda, for the question, and good morning and good afternoon to everyone once again. I would like to begin by highlighting the reality that across Africa and globally, women and girls with disabilities continue to face the highest levels of exclusion, whether be it through institutionalization, sexual gender-based violence, denial of legal capacity, or even forced medical procedures. And this is not due to a lack of legal standards. Those actually exist, but the challenge is implementation. So when we look at the CSW70 recommendations, and they align strongly with the binding obligations under both global and continental instruments, which allow me to just mention the key ones. We have the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, that's the CRPD, which recognizes and of course requires full legal capacity, access to justice, freedom from violence, and the prohibition of forced sterilization. We also have the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which we commonly like referring to as CEDAW, which recognizes disability as an intersecting form of gender discrimination, as has come out by most of the panelists who have gone before me. And in addition, I would want to mention as a soft law instrument, we have the international principles and guidelines on access to justice for persons with disabilities, which of course operates and discusses women and girls with disabilities, that provide practical guidance for states on how to operationalize these obligations, which include accessible courts, procedural accommodations, and training of justice actors, as mentioned during the section where the report was being discussed by Jane. Then also, as has just been previously mentioned by Gishuku, at the continental level, we have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the rights of persons with disabilities in Africa, which we all know as the African Disability Protocol, which contextualizes the rights of persons with disabilities in Africa and provides for the specific protection of rights that are granted on the continent, including on the rights
from disabled women in
women and girls with
Africa.
disabilities. We also have, as Gishuku mentioned, the Maputo Protocol, which is the African Charter on Human and People's Rights and the Rights of Women in Africa, which has established very strong protections against violence and discrimination against women across the continent. And I cannot leave this conversation by not mentioning that we also have the recently adopted Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls in Africa. Therefore, it is clear to actually say that in Africa, Africa does not suffer from a lack of legal frameworks on disability and women's rights. What we face is a persistent gap that we continue to see between the promise of the law and the lived reality of women with disabilities seeking justice. So, what we see when we examine how some of the states actually implement these obligations that I have mentioned from the instruments, and my organization, Validity, has seen by undertaking either strategic litigation on a number of cases, as well as sometimes submitting submissions at the UN treaty bodies, we have come to see that across most countries, same structural failures appear over and again. One of them is legal capacity remains and is removed through guardianship laws, which we face in our domestic laws. More specifically, if I could go into it, is that women with intellectual and psychosocial disabilities are prevented from making complaints, accessing justice, or decisions about their bodies on sexual and reproductive health rights. Then, of course, we've seen that institutionalization in referral hospitals has been used as a default response. Then there is forced contraception and sterilization, where procedures are carried out on women and girls without their consent, which of course is a direct violation of the CRPD and CEDAW obligations, and of course Maputo Protocol, and now the ratified African Disability Protocol. We also have barriers to access justice as police, and we see this in most of our countries at the national level, as police may dismiss complaints. Then in courts tend to disregard testimonies and find that women and girls with disabilities may not be credible on the basis of their disability, which is of course discriminatory. And lastly, procedural accommodations are rarely provided, which is very similar to the findings in the report that was discussed earlier. Yet, access to justice is not simply about reaching a courtroom, it is actually about women and girls with disabilities being able to report violence, being believed, and similarly being able to participate in proceedings and obtaining remedies. Now, I had mentioned that and, some of the things that we do as an organization is that we undertake cases through strategic litigation, and through the cases we've undertaken, several important legal principles have emerged that is very critical to this conversation we're having right now. That actually states have positive obligations whereby states must prevent, investigate, prosecute, and provide reparations when it comes to violations committed to women and girls with disabilities. Legal capacity, which is rarely addressed but is a key gateway to all other rights that we have in the instruments, needs also to be recognized, whereby a woman or a girl who is denied legal capacity is effectively denied justice because she's actually denied justice even before her case begins. Then procedural accommodations are mandatory. This includes easy to read materials, support persons, accessible reporting pathways, use of plain language communication for women and girls with intellectual disabilities, sign language interpreters, as has been highlighted in today's discussion as well, is well noted. Then, to summarize and to bring all this into one, how do we use or leverage these frameworks for policy reforms to address the question raised? There are quite a number, but in the interest of time, I will recommend three concrete shifts that states can take. One, law reforms are needed to harmonize domestic legislation when it comes to the CRPD, the African Disability Protocol, and of course the Maputo Protocol, whereby states need to repeal guardianship laws, adopt supported decision making, criminalize forced sterilization, and guarantee reasonable accommodation across all sectors. Then there's the need to integrate disability explicitly into the gender-based violence policies, which can be national gender strategies or police and prosecutorial guidelines and national action plans that we all have. And of course, it's important to integrate and ensure that disability inclusive budgeting is put in place, and monitoring indicators are also put in place to ensure that all the state actors are able to implement what we are discussing. Then, lastly, I would also want to highlight that as a leverage, it's important to ensure that meaningful participation, as emphasized by Ruth in her remarks, whereby many justice responses treat women and girls with disabilities primarily as victims needing protection, as opposed to right holders and of course justice actors. So women and girls with disabilities and their representative organizations must be present at the table, from the policy design to budgeting and of course to the evaluation process. With that, I would like to close off my presentation. Thank you, Belinda.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. That was very informative, and I'm just coming to understand that each and every individual is doing something. It might not be that big thing, but it's a change on its own way. So let us all continue doing our best and continuing doing what we love from that level, so that we ensure each and every individual is gotten to the point where they understand their rights, they know where to run to, and also they can reach out to other people. On which basis can they reach out to other people to help them when they need the help, especially if they are women and girls with disability? Christine, I hand over the mic back to you. It was nice having the panelists, and I'm glad that we have seen some questions in the comment, which I think, and I'm very sure Koba will help us to come into terms and answer to them. Thank you very much.
Uh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Belinda. And thank you so much for the panel. That was a very powerful engagement. Great insights. We are overloaded with that information. It is very informative and very eye-opening. So we are having some comments and some feedback on the chats. It is in the time is not on our side, but we can allocate 5 minutes. I request that we allocate 5 minutes to respond to this, and any other question that we have, you can please raise your hand so that we can at least hear a voice from the audience. It has just been us since we started. Yes, as we are waiting for any hand to be raised up, so we have a question. Okay, Bridget Banda is saying this research was well articulated. It gives a true reflection of what is on the ground in many African countries. There's a great similarity in proportions, almost across all findings. Thumbs up to cover. So I will move to the participants. We hear voices first. So I can see Shakira. Shakira, please, can you unmute and ask your question or give your input?
Chair,
Yes.
let's the next one coming. Shakira is just logging in very briefly. Can the second
Yes,
person ask?
Kelechi Choba. Kelechi.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so
Hi.
much. Thank you. Sorry I joined late. I didn't even know there was this topic that was there. Apparently, I wanted to. My question, I put it on the chat because I didn't know whether you had time. Is I just wanted to understand, because in Africa there's this cultural gap that we have that impact on disabled people because of taboo. Now I understand things are evolving. People are because of awareness. I just wanted to find out. I'll ask the speakers if there's how do we bridge the cultural gap that affect disabled women in Africa that impact on them getting involved in women empowerment in the movement, and also how do we ensure, when we bridge this gap, how do we ensure its implementation in Africa? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kilechi. So I'll go back to the panelists. Uh, Gishugu, would you like to take that up?
Yes,
Yeah.
sure. Thank you.
Chair,
Um,
can I interrupt Chair? Shakira is back, Chair.
Hi, Shakira.
Yes, hello, Chair. Sorry, I just want to greet you all. I'm Shakira Nawakoza from UNFPA. And I have a question. I'm very interested in this because I work in sexual reproductive health, GBV, and disability inclusion. I'm following up the first presentation that Wasonga made. It was very interesting to see how her research captured the region. However, Chair, the research was done in Kenya, in Rwanda, and Malawi, right? Uganda was not included. I wanted to know what's the impact of that, knowing the challenges are more or less the same, and Uganda was not included in this, being part of the region. Could she respond and know how far and how is her research going to impact on us, and what does it imply for Uganda? Looking at the percentages and the findings and the recommendations that are coming from the research.
Thank you so much, Shakira. I'll invite Jane to respond to that.
Thank you, Sakira. I think for sampling, when you are doing sampling, you believe that when you taste a soup from a cooking pot, the whole pot tastes the same. So, in our understanding, like we believe that we could not cover the whole of Africa, but East Africa, Kenya was represented. And like you say, most of the challenges are the same. So for that reason, that's why the sampling, the results and the replication will be across. But that means that we couldn't cover everything. That's why we do sampling. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen, for that response. And Shakira, we regret that we are not covering Uganda in this project, but that doesn't leave you out. You're still in our hearts, you're still in our mind. And when resources allow, we'll extend our tentacles to Uganda.
Okay, agreed.
Thank you so much.
all
Gishugu?
right.
Uh,
Yes,
yes.
thank
Go
you.
ahead.
So I'll attempt to answer, on the cultural gaps as well, but I think also colleagues, other panelists can share their reflections on the same. So in working on bridging cultural gaps, I would say that one major way that we, as Equality Now and the Solidarity for African Women's Rights Coalition, are working to break stereotypes within communities is collaborating with these cultural and traditional leaders. We understand that they stand at a very important position in our communities as norm holders, and so we are working closer with them to change social norms, to understand human rights frameworks, and to advocate for the application of human rights within their communities. So, for example, we are also implementing a project that is supported by the UN Women Act program. And as part of this project, we're working with traditional and religious leaders on ending violence against women and girls. And so our desire through this project is to build their capacities on advocating for an end to violence of women and girls within their communities, speaking with communities on the practices and the beliefs that have been harmful to women and girls, to in order to change those practices and beliefs. We are also working to develop guidelines for civil society organizations and women's rights organizations to engage with these leaders in advocacy efforts to bring an end to violence against women and girls. And so I would believe that that is one major way in which we can bridge the cultural gaps, is to work with these important leaders, to collaborate with them in order for them to bring about social changes within their communities and at the grassroots levels. On ensuring implementation, definitely one way in which this, one way in which we've seen successes in ensuring implementation is with providing technical support to governments. So, be expertise, legal expertise in implementing, regional and international frameworks. So, Equality Now has worked with county governments to develop. County level policies on GBV and FGM to ensure that we have implementation within the county levels, within the community levels. One way that we've been working with the national government and county government is through the application of the multi-sectoral approach, which is building synergies within different stakeholders, be it the government bodies and officers, the police, health providers and health workers, prosecutors, judges, civil society organizations. And we've seen that when you build synergies and relationships, working relationships within these different stakeholders, we have improved access to justice for survivors of violence. Additionally, I can just quickly speak on public awareness and education initiatives. When you build the awareness and educate the public on human rights, on their rights, when you educate women on their rights, then we're also building their capacity to put pressure on their governments, whether the national government or local governments, to improve the implementation of the laws that are in place. So one thing we say in Kenya is we have so many laws, but then where we're struggling is the implementation. But we believe that when you really educate the public on the laws that exist that protect their rights, then they're in a better position to also push for increased implementation and application of those laws. So I think I'll also hand it to colleagues if they have any other reflections on the same. Thank you very much for that question, Kalechi.
Thanks. The rest of the panel, if you have any comment in the next 30 seconds, we will end there. Anyone would like to come in?
Christian, let me say something. This is Belinda. So I would like to talk about Kalechi Chiloba's question on how to ensure that the cultural gaps are prevented. So what I would like to say is we should note when they are happening and where are they taking place, and then after there is when we can start. We can start with articulating them, because basically you can't articulate something that you don't have proper evidence. And again, we should also ensure that the people that are going through this are empowered. Doesn't mean that they should be able to speak like openly everywhere. And the other thing is we should also ensure that our countries, we task the countries accountable, especially when it comes to the cultural norms and the gender-based violence. So we don't have to repeat our stories over and over again. Every time you go to a police station, today you meet a policeman that is different, tomorrow different one, the next day different one. So I think we should task our governments also accountable when it comes to how to solve stigma, violence, and any other harassment that is around women and girls with disability. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Belinda. We can wind up with Jennifer's input. Jennifer, 30 seconds as we hand over to Frida.
Thank you, Christine. I think I'll be very brief, whereby I'll just emphasize that one way, and this is coming from a legal perspective manner, the one way that we could also address the issue on cultural gaps and implementation is to push for the ratification of the African Disability Protocol. So currently we have only 17 member states that have ratify the African Disability Protocol, which, if you look at Article 11, is and I think that also speaks to the reason why we have the African Disability Protocol. It speaks on harmful practices, which of course are fueled by cultural gaps that we have. So the minute our states are able to ratify the protocol, this will of course influence the domestic legislation that we have to either repeal the laws that support this or amend the laws that actually support or encourage cultural gaps. So mine will be to say that ratification of the African Disability Protocol will actually enforce in ensuring that this bridge is addressed as brought out by Kelechi. Thank you.
Christine, I think you are on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. Thank you all for making time for this. My sincere apologies. We have gone beyond the time with 13 minutes. But you can admit that it was a discussion that needs a whole day, and we are bound by this time. So thank you all. Thank you, the panelists, for the great insights. It was very, very informative. Thank you, Jane, the consultant, for the presentation. Thank you, Gabrielle, for your opening remarks that restated solidarity that the UN Trust Fund has with us. And I want to now hand it over to Frida to just give a closing remarks as we finish this. Thank you so much. See you again. We appreciate this. Frida, if you can hear me. Okay, we seem to have lost Frida. How, Frida? If you can hear me.
Hello, Charity. Here, these are the options for the package of 860.
All right, thank you so much. Let me bring in Ruth. Ruth, if you can hear me. Ruth Mkutumula.
Sorry, I was on something. What did you say? I missed something.
Yes, I wanted Frida to give the closing remarks, but I can't get her. Please, can you just
Okay.
and thank her as well? Yes, yes.
All right. So, should I
Yes,
give
yes.
the
We want to
closing
see you.
remarks?
Yes, yes, please. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so very much. I just want to thank our consultant, Edric, for the wonderful work that you have done. I know that this research has taken a toll on all of us because it has been prolonged. We should have finished earlier, but due to other technicalities, we found ourselves in this position. But nevertheless, we want to thank you for your commitment to ensure that we have these results. To say the truth, this is one of the very important data in Africa for women with disability. We have been crying all along, lack of data. There is no data for us to be able to, make reference on. And this kind of findings really forms as one of the key important documents that we can make reference to, and it speaks to the lived realities of women with disability across Africa. And as someone has also rightly said from UNFPA, that even though we were not able to reach Uganda, we did Rwanda, Malawi, Kenya, but still more. This is issues of women with disability. What they're experiencing is most of the times similar. And as you can see on the research, we see that the percentages of the levels of participation, inclusion, they are not far from each other in terms of the findings. So I think it is really also representing the voices of women with disability in other African countries. And thank you to Jennifer, Chuku. They've always been there, and these also represent the feminist groups that are really advancing rights of women. But also the fact that we have been crying that we are not working together, we are not speaking with one voice, we are not finding ourselves in the feminist and women's rights spaces. But now it's really a core, even with these findings, that we now see ways of how we can really work together to advance rights of women and girls with disability. And thank you to our partner, UN Trust Fund, colleagues from UN Women, the Arts Program, and also all the women who are representing from various organizations, that this is really, we should take this to disseminate these findings as much as possible, but also see how we can utilize this into interventions that we are all doing as we are moving forward. So all in all, thank you so much for attending to this webinar, which is really a success. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you all. And please don't forget to register. Yes, thank you so much. Let's do it again next time. All right, thank you.
Not taking a picture?
Yeah, we can have your video.
Please, can you coordinate a photo session? Brandy, we are waiting for a photo session. Please, colleagues who are still in the call, open your camera, we take a photo.
Hey, nimewapiga mimi. Okay, nimepiga kadhaa. Ngoja. Nime screenshot. Tena nyingine waambie wa pause.
Is it done? Yeah.
No, it's not done. Don't say yeah.
Who is taking a photo? Please, we don't know who is taking a photo.
It is Brandy. Give her a few seconds. Give her a few seconds,
Thank you.
please. Yes. Brandy, let us know when it's done, huh?
Okay. Christine.
Yeah.
Christine,
And alert us to smile, huh?
Christine.
We are trying our best to hold the smile.
Smile. See, this microphone yangu haifanyi.
Christine, tell Brandy my smile will fade away. She should be quick.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. See
Bye,
you.
Christine. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
See you
bye.
next time. Bye-bye.
Eh? Mimi sijui nimewapiga picha mimi. Registration I don't know. Si nyinyi sasa, si nyinyi ndio mmeanzisha mkutano mseme mmemaliza. Acha nione kama my live stream stopped. Stop.